beta 1. Okay. So now we'll be using similar theorem, and these theorems will help us to tell something about the population parameter like beta 1 after knowing what is the value of B1. Okay. So for that, we'll discuss about a theorem which is known as Gauss-Markov theorem. Okay. What Gauss-Markov theorem tells, I'll share my PPT now. Yeah. The Gauss-Markov theorem suggests that given the assumptions of classical linear regression model, CLRM is the short form of classical linear regression model. The simple regression model which we are discussing, that is the simplest form of classical linear regression model. Okay. So given some assumptions of CLRM which we will discuss, OLS estimates like B0, B1 which we got are BLUE for population parameters. So BLUE, I think Abhirami was telling about it, best linear unbiased estimator. Okay. So if certain assumptions of classical linear regression models are satisfied, then your life is comfortable. Using Gauss-Markov theorem, you can say the OLS estimates which you got, like V0 beta 1 you got, those are best linear unbiased estimators for the population parameters like beta 0, beta 1. Now let us discuss this concept. It has four terms: best linear unbiased estimator. Estimator, all of you know, it's simple. B1 is estimator of beta 1. B0 is the estimator of beta 0 in our model. Meaning, from the value of B1, we get what is the value of beta 1. That's how it is estimator. From the value of B0, we'll get what is the value of beta 0. So that's how B0 is an estimator of beta 0. B1 is an estimator of beta 1. Okay. Then what is unbiased here? This is what I think Abhirami or somebody was telling, unbiased. Now you got idea what is the unbiased meaning here? Here the unbiased meaning is this B1 has a sample distribution, right? The B1 values may vary from 0.2, something can be 0.39, somewhere it can be 0.59, somewhere it can be 0.66, somewhere 0.87, 1.01. You have many values of B1 possible. Okay. If I take average of that, okay, what I tell, this is average of B1. If I take average of that expected B1, we call average, right? You add up everything divided by n, what you get, I'll say it is average or expected value of B1. Okay. So if expected value of B1 is equal to beta 1, then we call it B1 as an unbiased estimator for beta 1. Okay. So unbiased here means on an average, B1 will be equal to beta 1. On average, the estimator will give the value of population parameter. On an average, the sample estimate will give the population parameter. If it does, okay, then we call it unbiased. Okay. Then what is linear? Linear basically that is specification of the model. If you remember the model, your model is yi is equal to beta 0 or b0, whatever you say, beta 1 xi plus ui. So here the exponent of beta 0, beta 1, xi, everything is 1. So it is a linear model. Okay. And then best. What is best here? The best here refers to minimum variance. Minimum variance. See, a distribution is possible like this. It has a mean which is equal to beta 1. It has a variance also because the values are varying. You know how to calculate the variance. You can apply the formula summation b1i minus beta 1 because it is the mean here, okay, divided by n and square of that, right? This is your variance. I think n square is not necessary, no? I think correct me. I don't remember the formula now. I think square will appear here. N need not be squared. Or you check whatever is correct. You know the formula for variance. So basically, given that these values are different, they are varying, you have a variance. You calculate this variance, maybe this variance is say 2.5. You have another possible values of B1, possibly if you are using a different estimator. Now you used OLS. By using OLS, you are getting these numbers like 0.2, 0.39, depending on which sample you have picked up. Assume you have used some other procedure. So that is methodology 2. Say you are using methodology 2. From that, you get values of beta 1 like B1 like say 0.19, 0.20, 0.69, something like you get all those values like this. For that also I can calculate the variance. Okay. Now this variance for the second one will be always higher than this. So this variance can be say 3.9. So if you are applying OLS, ordinary least square, then the estimator which you are referring to, it will have minimum variance compared to any other alternative method which you can apply. Okay, I'll repeat what I'm trying to tell you. See, as I'm telling you, these things are very important for you to understand econometrics properly. These are the building blocks. So ensure you understood it. Many of you who had econometrics earlier also, I'm sure, you might not have gone into very deep in these issues. So listen carefully and understand. If you have not understood, ask me. First thing is estimator. That is easy because using this thing, you are getting the estimates of population parameters. So that's how it is an estimator. It is unbiased. Unbiased here meaning on an average, the sample estimate will be equal to the population parameter. Why the average is coming? Because your sample estimates follow a probability distribution. With some probability you get 0.66, with some probability you get 0.87, with some probability you get 0.01. So that way, given that there is a probability distribution and average of that you get, and if assumptions, classical linear regression model assumptions, which we are going to discuss, if these assumptions hold, then if you apply OLS to estimate your sample estimates, OLS formula it is basically trying to minimize summation UI square. Okay, so with that you got the formula for B1 as n summation yi minus summation yi summation xi whole divided by n summation xi square minus summation xi whole square. That is for B1. For B0, y mean minus B1 estimate x0. Okay, so if you apply OLS, if assumptions are satisfied, on an average, your sample estimate will be equal to population parameter. That is average of B1s, which is possible. B11, B12, B13, B11, B1n, etc. So the average of that will be equal to population parameter. Right? That is one thing you are happy. At least on an average, you will get the value of population parameter, the value of true MPC. Even if you got 0.66, if those assumptions are satisfied, this 0.66 on an average will be equal to true MPC. On an average. So still I'm telling, I cannot say with certainty. Okay. On an average, I'll say your population parameter will be beta 0.66. Beta 1 will be equal to 0.66 provided assumptions are satisfied. That is one thing. Secondly, there is no guarantee because it is a probability distribution. So automatically it has a variance. Okay. But that variance will be least, will be minimum if you are applying OLS. So that means once you know OLS, and if classical linear regression model assumptions are satisfied, there is no need to look for a second way of estimating B0, B1. That is one comfort you have thanks to Gauss-Markov theorem. Okay, Gauss-Markov theorem is suggesting that if you apply OLS and get value of B0, B1 like we got, minus 1197 and 0.66, then they are best linear unbiased estimators of population parameters, provided classical linear regression model assumptions are satisfied. Okay, so you understood the concept. I mean, the meaning of all those things. Estimator linear are simpler. Unbiased, you remember, this is suggesting that on an average, sample estimates will be equal to population parameter. And best is suggesting that the variance of that whole distribution is minimum if you apply OLS. See, minimum doesn't mean that it is precise. Okay, there may be other estimator. If you apply, variance could be 3.9. You apply a third one, maybe 3.2, a fourth one, maybe 16.9. So variance can vary depending on which method you apply. But then we need not look for a second method because OLS itself giving us a minimum variance. Minimum variance could be 2.5. It can be 1.9. Even it can be 10.0. But whatever variance you are getting, that is the best, in the sense that is the minimum if you are applying OLS. See, what is the advantage of that variance being minimum? I hope all of you understood, but given that some of you are not very comfortable in stat math, so this also I'll explain. Even econometricians also, those studied econometrics also, I'm not sure if you understood this. See, I can have a distribution, okay, with a variance of this much given by the probability distribution like this. I can have another one which is relatively bigger. I can have a small one which is. So you have three possibilities here. In each one, there is a variance which is positive, right? Because they're varying across a set of values. I mean, within a range of set of values. But among the three distributions which is possible here, let me put it as distribution A, let me put it as a distribution B, let me put it as a distribution C. This is a more precise estimate. Assume these values, say, vary from, say, 100 to 110. This may vary, this is the largest. So this may vary, say, from 5 to 460. This may vary bigger than this. So say maybe 100 and say 50 to say 250. So you see, in each one there is a variability. But you'll be happy if you are having a distribution C, because your estimates are more precise. You may get a B1 which could be 100. You may get a B1 which could be 101. You may get a B1 which is 102, but maximum is 110. Okay. So even if you get 100 and actually say 105, okay, it is not varying from 100 too much. Or you get 102, this is not varying from 105 too much. You get 110, this is also not varying from 105 too much. Okay. But here, if your true is 105, okay, you may get anything. You may get even 420, or you may get 350. So 350 to 105 distance is much more compared to these values. Here also, although true is 105, you may get 240. You may get 60, right? So your estimate, your conclusion about population parameter will be more precise, more closer to correctness, more appropriate if you are having a distribution like C. A is better than B, but it definitely worse than C, and B is the worst case here. Okay, so that is what, if you are applying OLS, then your variance will be minimum. It will be like the minimum range. You are applying some methodology 1, it can have a very wide variance. You can have apply methodology 2, you can have even lesser than B, but even higher than C. So the point is, if you are applying OLS, that itself give you minimum variance. Variance about what? Variance about values of B1 or B0. So if you are having a lesser variance, you'll be happier because that will suggest more precision, more correctness, more appropriateness about your conclusion. Okay. So that's how, Gauss-Markov theorem is very important for us. Okay. But Gauss-Markov theory is telling one thing. It is telling provided the assumptions are satisfied. If classical linear regression model assumptions are satisfied, then OLS is blue and you need not look for any better option. Okay. Then what are the classic linear, CLRM assumptions? Of course, Gujarati discusses about 10, but not everything is important. Couple of them are important, which I'll discuss with you. Okay. I think I'm discussing all 10 perhaps. Let me see how many. Yeah, all the 10, whatever is in Gujarati, I'm discussing all, but you don't require, I mean, all the assumptions are not necessary for this. Okay, those assumptions are required, or by default that has to be there to apply OLS. So that's why certain assumptions are no need to be, I'll not say necessary, no need to put explicitly. That way I can say. Okay. Now, what is the first assumption? First assumption is your regression model is linear in parameters. See, in examination, if I ask you, I generally know this is a compulsory question in my examinations. Or talking about the classical linear regression model assumptions. Why it is, I make it compulsory because for good understanding of econometrics, understanding each of the assumptions, like 6, 7 important assumptions, which I'll tell you, is a necessary prerequisite. So you need to know these assumptions properly, understand it properly, and remember that. Okay. Secondly, this is for your understanding of econometrics. Secondly, whatever exam you write in econometrics in this course, or your net examination, or you appear for any other interview where you say I had a paper in econometrics, they will definitely ask you some questions related to these assumptions. Okay. So that's how it is rewarding for understanding economics, for doing well in interview. You need to remember all these 6, 7 assumptions, uh, compulsorily. Okay. So that's why I will discuss these assumptions in much more detail. And this has 3 parts, at least 2 parts for you to remember. One is statement of the assumption. What is that assumption? Okay. Statement both in word as well as in mathematics with mathematical symbols. Secondly, explaining these assumptions, what these assumptions mean. Okay. So let me start with the first one. The statement of the assumption is regression model or econometric model, whichever we are discussing, is linear in parameters. These 2 words are catchy here. So remember, when you will write this assumption, you should have these 2 words for sure. That econometric model is linear in parameters. Okay. Then you specify this model. This model is linear in parameters. What are the parameters here? See, what is your yi? Yi is a value of the dependent variable, so it is a variable. What is xi? Xi is again explanatory variable, so it is a variable. What is ui? Ui is stochastic error term, again it is a variable. Now wherever I is there as a subscript, you see yi, xi, ui. When we're generally in econometrics, we're referring to I, we're referring to cross-section data. And when I'll denote T, that refers to time series data. Like your data can be time series or cross-section. This example which I had earlier, where I had given you data for PCC and PCI, per capita consumption and per capita income, there it was over time, like 2004-5, 2005-6, 2006-7, etc. So there we'll denote YT is equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 XT plus UT. In general, until you go to the time series course, I'll referring these things to I, wherever not necessary to bring time series, I'll put as I. Okay, I refers to individual. Income of individual, consumption or expenditure of individual, etc. So here, yi, xi, and ui are variables. So whatever is left are parameters. So what is left? Beta 0, beta 1. So you have two parameters here. What is telling? Regression model is linear in parameters. That means the exponent, the power of beta 0 has to be 1. The power of beta 1 also has to be 1. So it is linear in parameters. There are no restriction on the exponent of xi or yi. Okay, there are, or basically xi will refer to the right hand side. There are no restrictions on exponent of xi. Xi can be xi square, it can be xiq, it can be anything. No problem. It need not be linear. What is to be linear? Beta 0 and beta 1 has to be linear. Their power has to be 1. That's how it is linear in parameter. I'll give an example. Where I have a blank space. Here I have. So if I'm having a model that yi is equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 square xi plus ui, then this model doesn't satisfy the first assumption. Why? Beta 1 power is 2 other than 1. So it is no more a linear model. It has to be linear in parameter. That means the power of beta 0 has to be 1 as well. The power of beta 1 has to be 1. Here it is not because power of beta 1 is 2. So will first assumption is violated. Okay. Now you can think of a second model. Yi is equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 xiq plus ui. This model, there is no violation of first assumption. Why? The exponent of beta 0 is equal to 1. The exponent of beta 1 also is equal to 1. So it is linear. Exponent of xi may be 3, but we don't bother about it. Okay. So that is what the model is linear in parameters. So if you are writing an exam, you need to explain this way. If I ask you, write assumptions of classical linear regression model. For first assumption, first you have to write the assumption, as I said, state the assumption that regression model is linear in parameters. This is, you are putting in words. You put in mathematics also, telling yi is equal to the model can be represented by this. Okay. Then you can give some examples like I gave to explain that in what case it is linear, in what case it is non-linear, to make sure that you have understood this reasonably. Okay. So note this, I'm also telling you how to write an answer for exam, whether I am conducting the exam or somewhere else, somebody else. So you need to state the assumption and then explain, depending of course how much mark you have. Okay. If you have less mark, then just stating is fine, but if you add couple of explanation, it is good. But if it is having reasonable mark like 5 marks, 10 marks, etc., then you spend some time in explaining the assumption. Okay, I think assumption 1 all of you understood. Any doubts on this? No? Okay, let me move to the next assumption. Assumption 2 tells independent variable xi is fixed in repeated sampling. That is, it assumed to be non-stochastic. How many of you understood this? Those of you did earlier, who will answer? Abhirami, have you understood this assumption, ma?
No, sir, not exactly.
Okay, Pragya,
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Sir,
what this assumption means? Yeah.
sir, the x value we are taking it as fixed. We are not varying the value of x. We are not taking a random variable of x. We are
Is it?
fixing it from.
Huh.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm not clear with your answer. Actually, I didn't understand that. What do you mean by we're fixing and not repeating? I mean, fixed in sample and not changing.
Sir, we are not taking randomly. We are not taking the value. We will.
Okay, if I counter it, remember the example which I gave, you had 3
Yes,
individuals with income 10, 4
yes, sir.
individuals with income 20, 3 individuals with income, I mean 4 individuals with income 15 and 3 individuals with income 20, right?
Yes, sir.
So they're varying, right? So do you mean for that model this assumption is violated?
No, sir. Sir, I think the x value we are taking fixed means uh, the
Those are
y
x
can
values.
vary.
Those x values were changing, no? 10, 15, 20 are different values, right? Those are x values, isn't it? Income was x, consumption was y, but
Yes, sir.
income was x, right? You had 3 different incomes. You remember that graph, or I'll open
Yeah,
again and
yes. No,
yeah,
no, 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 sir. Sir, I
yeah.
remember. I remember.
So then, what do we mean by x is fixed in repeated sampling? Any other
So,
student? Yeah, yes.
so when repeated samples are taken, the beta 0 and beta 1 will change, but the income would be constant to
Come on,
measure.
you have not understood anything.
No.
No, John, I know I don't want to discourage you. I mean, good that you tried to give an answer, but that it is totally, um, totally different. Okay, you repeat the answer, then I'll correct you where you understood correctly. You repeat your answer, John.
No, so I thought when you estimate when the beta 0 and beta 1 would change, you would
Hmm?
keep the income level constant, and it's the
No,
other
it
way
is
that
it is not
analysis will
that.
change.
It is not that, pa. See, I can have one sample
Sir,
where yeah, wait, let me first make Johan understand. See, Johan, I may have one sample where, as I said, I have 3 incomes, 10, 15, 20. I can have another set of sample where same income can be 10, 15, 20 with for some individuals, and I'll have different values of beta 0, beta 1. So all are changing, right? Okay,
Right,
I'll
okay.
explain afterwards. Yeah, somebody was talking. Who was talking?
Sir, Akanksha.
Yeah, tell me, ma.
Sir, is it that the independent variable is not related to the error term?
Uh, I mean, that is true, but that is not what meant in this assumption. There is another assumption for that. There is another assumption where we will tell that the independent variable is not related to stochastic error term. Okay, there is another assumption, but this assumption is different. This assumption is telling xi is fixed in repeated sampling. Any other student who did econometrics earlier? You know why I'm asking you and then discussing the things to ensure that what you didn't understand earlier you understood now. If I don't ask you, I'll assume you have understood and I'll keep on going, so that will not be helpful for you. So that's why I want to make clear. And again, why I'm asking these 3-4 people, because I thought they have undertaken, I mean they have undergone econometrics. Abhirami, Pragya and Akanksha, they have been answering. But other students, if somebody has undergone econometrics, please keep answering. Okay, and it is open to all, answering or asking coding and questions and all. Okay, this assumption is very very critical for you to understand the difference between the mathematical model and the econometric model. Okay, if you remember, the mathematical model suggested that everybody who is having income of 10 will have consumption expenditure of the same thing. Like if your say your intercept is 0 and your MPC is 0.6, then everybody who is having income of 10, the mathematical model suggests the consumption expenditure will be 6. Everybody who is having income of 20, the consumption expenditure will be 12. Right? Now, what is different in econometric model? In econometric model, what we are doing, we are basically considering cases where fixing income to a particular level, we are trying to see how consumption expenditures are changing. Okay, so that's how it is fixed in the repeated sampling. For example, I'm not sure if I was clear to all of you. I'll try to explain this here. See, having income of 10, I can have consumption expenditure 3 individuals varying, for somebody 5, for somebody 9, for somebody 7. Having income of 15, similarly, I have consumption expenditures. I don't remember the values, whatever, you had 3-4 values here, right? So mathematical model ignored that. Mathematical model fixed it somewhere in the middle. But we want to differentiate in econometric model that for this income of 10, some individuals may have different consumption expenditure. For some same income of 15, we may have different consumption expenditure. So that's how this assumes the X values are fixed at a particular level like 10. Then we observe the variability of dependent variable. Similarly, independent variable is fixed at 15. Then we see what is the variability in the dependent variable. It is fixed at 20. Then see what is the variability in that. Okay. So that way we say that Xi is fixed in repeated sampling. Okay. It is fixed. We are fixing it to be 10 and seeing what is the variability. We are fixing it to be 15 and we are seeing what is the variability. Okay. So you may have different fixed values for X, and for those fixed values of X, we are seeing how Y values are changing. Okay. So this is one assumption. Afterwards, I will say something. Afterwards, there is another assumption which says that I think it is assumption or one of the, I mean, it is not necessary. That assumption is not necessary for classical linear regression model, but it is basically inherent. Okay, when I go to that, I'll discuss that. So basically, that assumption will tell that there should be adequate variability in X. So there is a possibility of confusion between this assumption and that assumption. So that's why I'm emphasizing its relevance. Okay, so this assumption suggests that the independent variables are fixed in repeated sampling. That means some values of the independent variable are kept fixed, and then you have tried to take as many dependent variables for that fixed value of X. Okay, so that you capture the variability of the dependent variable for given value of or fixed value of the explanatory variable. And the other assumption which I was telling, I think somewhere, let me see where it is coming. No specification error, not in this. See, values of the explanatory variables in a sample must vary. Okay, so this assumption appears to be in conflict with related to this assumption. You are telling independent variable is fixed. Okay, then here it is telling this independent or same thing, no? Explanatory variables must vary. So here you are telling vary, there you are telling fixed. So there is a confusion. Okay, so that confusion you understand this way. What is it told? That it is fixed at 10, then you get many values, several values of Y. Fix X2 at 15, get several values of Y. Fix X3 as 20, get several values of Y. So this is second assumption. The other assumption which I am telling, that should be some variability. There should some should be 10, some should be 15, some should be 20. If everything is same, that is everything is 15, then also you cannot apply OLS. Sorry. So there should be variability in X values. These fixed values of X which we are talking, these fixed values of X's should vary. It should not be just one for the entire sample. Okay, it should be fixed here, it should be variable across. Okay, I hope you understood, but in case some doubts are there, I'll take up. And what is the third assumption? Third assumption is suggesting the mean value or expected value of the random disturbance term is 0. Okay, now let me explain that model. This is necessary to explain before I go there. So look at our yi. What is our yi? Our yi is beta 0 plus beta 1 xi plus ui. This part is fixed. Why it is fixed? Because it is giving you that, say you had scatter plots like this. and you have this straight line. So this part is basically these points on this straight line. Okay, here is say your y2, assume this is your y2. Okay, and this is the difference between y2 and y2 hat. This part let me put as yi hat, means estimated. When I'm putting a hat symbol for a particular variable, that basically tells that this is a estimated value. Okay, so y2 minus y2 hat, here is y2 hat. Okay, is what is u2 hat, right? This is this variation u2 hat. Okay, see here this part is on the line, so it is a fixed. This part is changing. For this it is u2, for this it may be u1, for this you may be u3. So you, depending on ui, you have a value of yi, a fixed part plus minus something. Depending on the value of ui, you get yi. Okay, now this is fixed part, so it doesn't have a random distribution, probability distribution, it is fixed. But this part is varying. This has a random distribution or stochastic distribution. This has a random distribution or stochastic distribution. Now, given that this is fixed, the distribution of ui will be same as the distribution of yi. Say, for example, as you know, you might have learnt earlier. Say my ui is given like this. This is my, say, ui, and assume this is my yi hat, estimated part. What will my yi will be this plus this, this plus this plus this. So it will be also somewhere a similar curve only, like this only. It is not reflecting exactly, but you know, you can imagine this is basically the same curve like this. It should be. Okay, so this way yi, this distribution which is varying will mirror yi's distribution. Computer. Actually, I'm using both, two computers. So, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hello. I'm
Yes,
not
sir.
able to hear you. Let me see how long it takes to connect. Just wait a minute. I lost my network. We'll start again. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Someone please respond. I'm not able to hear you. Okay, let me. I think it's opening now. No, but I'm not able to. Okay, I think it will come now.
Yeah, now I think you can hear me now clearly. No, I was using the other computer, this and this our campus.
Wi-Fi, there was some problem, but then cable was working. Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, then if you have any doubts, you please ask me. Another 2-3 minutes we'll spend for clearing your doubts. Or if you want to know something more about what we discussed, that we can also tell me. Okay, if don't have any doubts, yeah, Abhirami, ask me
Sir,
what to tell.
yes, sir. You told us the difference between the second assumption and another assumption, right, sir? Can you explain it once more?
Yeah. See, basically, yeah, I understood. You know why there is a need for, I mean, there is a scope for confusion. Second assumption tells that explanatory variables are fixed in repeated sampling. Okay, that fixed term is coming there. And the other assumption tells that X values should vary. There should be, in fact, there should be adequate variation in X values. So, and at one place you are telling fixed, at the other place you are telling there should be adequate variation. Okay, that is confusing. No, fixed and variation, how can be possible for the same variable? Okay, same about the same explanatory variable. So that is what I was explaining. When we say fixed in repeated sampling, what we mean is we keep the value of a particular X, like X1, as fixed. So X1 can be 10. Then we see what are the different values of Y for these values of X1 in our sample. Then let us take X2 as 15. So this is another set of values of X1, of X, which is X2. So with X2 fixed, then we'll see what are how the Y values vary when X2 is equal to 15. Similarly, we can take X3, which can be 20, and see how these values are varying. So there, that is what we mean fixed in repeated sampling. We fix at 10, repeat in samples. I mean, we find out those repeated values in the sample. Okay, 10 repeated, 15 repeated, 20 repeated. That is what you are keeping fixed in repeated sampling. Secondly, the other assumption talking about, there should be adequate variability in X. That means X should not be only 15 for all, for the entire sample, or only 10 for the entire sample, or only 20 for the entire sample. There should be some variability in X. Some X's can be 10, some X's can be 15, some X's can be 20. Basically, there has to be variability in X. That's how I thought there will be scope for confusion and doubt. So I emphasized on that. Is it clear now, Abhirami?
Yes, sir, it is clear now.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it is 1:30. I think if some doubts are there also, I'll not able to take. I'll close today, and then whatever doubts you have, we'll start in the next class. So next class we'll be discussing about assumptions. And I advise all students to be there, because these things are very, very critical for you to understand. Don't miss now. Past 5-6 classes, sessions, don't miss. Then we'll discuss about hypothesis testing, and of course you might have done already hypothesis testing and statistics, but the way I'll do it, it will be it will be more clear, and you will see how we'll apply in econometrics, which is important for you to understand. So, and then after that we'll discuss about some diagnostic checks, using statistics, F statistics, and why I'm little bit reluctant to share the videos at this point, because I want you to read and understand and listen to me carefully. carefully. I'm getting feedback from some batches. Some students are just listening. I'm not telling your batch. Maybe many of you are sincere. They're not listening to the class and just hearing the records. See, if you're hearing the records, it is fine. But in a records, your doubts will not be clear. If you hear me attentively, then only you can know where you have doubt, and I can clear your doubts. It will be in a continuous process. So I want to avoid that sharing the videos so soon, when you will not put much efforts to understand the things. Maybe before the exams I'll share the videos, but until that I'm not sharing. Okay, just to sort of compel you that you be attentive in class and hear to me carefully. You can of course take class notes, right? And videos I'll be sharing little later. Videos, in each set of videos I'll be sharing just before the internal test. Okay, that is basically in your interest. Today it may be difficult for you, but in your interest, so that you are attentive and listen to me carefully. Okay, yeah, bye.